The material we received is a really comprehensive research summary on autonomous AI agents. It's meant to be the backbone for a 7-minute video.
And it's strong. I mean, really robust.
Exceptionally robust. It has these fascinating kind of niche historical examples like Julia the Mud Agent, Telescript, and the explanations of really complex things like JIPA are excellent, super clear.
That depth is a huge win, yeah. The clarity on the technical side, especially the distinction between, System 1 LLMs and the more deliberative System 2 agents, is laid out perfectly. But our job is to make sure this hits hard for a video audience. And for a 7-minute piece, the structural priorities feel a little off.
I agree completely, which brings us to the first point. We have this powerhouse of a central idea, right?
The software that waits for you versus software that works for you.
Yes. And it's currently saved for the last page. So the powerful central thesis about autonomous agents needs to be moved up. It has to be established as the core organizing conflict for the whole narrative.
Right now, it's treated like a grand conclusion, a big reveal.
Exactly.
But if the audience doesn't know that's the core conflict up front, they won't know why they should care about the historical deep dive or the architecture.
The whole first section just feels like a list of facts. Like, here's an old agent, here's another one. It doesn't feel like a setup for a breakthrough.
That's the weakness then. It's delaying the so what of the whole piece.
It is. So our suggestion is to immediately ground the video in that high-stakes contrast. Use the prediction, that robust level 3 agents are coming by 2025-2026.
Make that the turning point.
Make that the turning point. That's what justifies the deep dive into why now is different.
That shift in focus reframes everything.
It does.
So if we start with the urgency of how agents are about to transform professional work, the history isn't just trivia anymore.
It becomes this necessary look back at our, decades-long quest to build employee software.
Yeah.
Let's use a concrete example. Reframe the intro around that idea of employee software. Use General Magic's Telescript from 1994.
The agent that was supposed to negotiate an airline ticket?
Right. Use that not just as a historical footnote, but as an early, failed attempt to get to this autonomous goal.
Oh, that's a strong narrative driver.
The failure of Telescript is now a key part of the story, not just a factoid.
Right. It tells the audience, look, we've been trying this for 30 years, and it failed because we didn't have the right architecture. Now we finally have it.
And that makes the whole upcoming section on architecture feel completely earned.
It transforms the history from a simple timeline into a dramatic setup.
It proves the problem is hard, and that this moment isn't just another software update. It's a genuine breakthrough.
I do have one question, though.
Okay.
If we focus so much on the software that works for you angle, which is a pretty simple concept, do we risk understating the technical complexity that follows?
That's a fair point.
We don't want people thinking this is just a fancy new macro recorder.
No, definitely not. But I think you introduced the complexity after you hooked them with the stakes. The hook is the functional change. It works for you. The complexity is the how the world models, the JIPA.
I see.
And by showing the historical failures first, we've already established that the solution must be technically profound.
Fair enough. So the key is establishing the failure of the old paradigm right up front. If the 1994 agent couldn't book a ticket...
The audience is immediately asking, so why can the 2026 agent run a chemistry lab?
And that leads perfectly into our next point on pacing.
Exactly. The current script sequence has a risk of losing the audience right in the middle. It's all about pacing and flow.
Right.
To keep a video audience engaged, that highly theoretical discussion on agent architecture needs to be followed immediately by its most compelling, tangible proof points.
The application section.
The application section, yeah. The writer does such a great job explaining these dense ideas, world models, JIPA, episodic control.
They really do. But right now, that dense explanation is followed by classification frameworks. And then, minutes later, we finally get to the real-world stuff like self-driving labs.
Precisely. That architecture segment. You're talking about systems that predict abstract representations of the world.
It's the intellectual peak of the whole summary.
It is. And if you make the audience hold all that complexity in their heads for too long without a payoff, you create what I'd call a theoretical trough.
A theoretical trough. I like that.
That's where you lose people.
That's where their attention just drops off a cliff.
So the fix is to integrate the examples of agents doing science, not just booking flights, right after the world model explanation.
You have to. You marry the concept and the evidence instantly.
Okay, so a concrete example would be?
After explaining the goal of JIPA, this system that builds an internal, mental, physics engine of reality to simulate an action,
You immediately pivot to the AI agent at the University of Illinois.
immediately.
The one that autonomously designs, builds, and tests enzymes?
Yes, that's the perfect payoff. That whole loop, hypothesize, 3D print DNA, test, learn, that's the most tangible, high-level version of a world model in action.
It shows the agent running internal simulations and then translating them into complex, multi-step actions in the real world.
It's the visual evidence that the architecture actually works. If you spend a minute explaining how a world model functions, you have to follow it up with a 30-second clip of an agent physically controlling lab equipment.
It stops being abstract instantly.
And we can do the same thing with the A-Lab example.
Synthesizing 41 new materials in 17 days.
That's your proof of true multi-day autonomous action. You use that result right after defining why episodic control and world models are necessary for long-term goals.
It validates the architectural requirements on the spot.
It just shifts the whole dynamic. Instead of saying, here's a complex idea, and later, here's how it's used.
Here's a complex idea. And look, it's already synthesizing new materials right now.
Exactly. It provides the proof of concept right when the viewer is most likely to be overwhelmed by the technical jargon.
Absolutely. It makes the technical deep dive feel like a mandatory prerequisite for seeing the spectacular results, which is a much stronger narrative arc.
Right.
Now let's pivot from those spectacular results to the necessity of these architectures. The third major point really gets into the justification for all this complexity.
Yes. The material is so good at identifying the risks, but we need to make sure those risks function as direct evidence for why the proposed solutions are necessary.
We need to bolster that logical link between the technical failures and the architectural solutions.
Seriously bolster it.
So, as I understand it, the summary has these strong examples of failures, like looping and reward hacking. But it kind of treats them as a separate danger zone section near the end.
It does.
And it's missing that clear logical bridge showing that the architectures we just talked about, world models, episodic control, are the specific antidotes for these exact flaws.
That's the structural omission. We need to frame these bottlenecks not just as general risks, but as irrefutable proof of why we need to move from reactive LLMs to these deliberative agents.
It's a technical requirement, not just a performance upgrade.
The goal isn't just to make the agent smarter, it's to prevent a total systemic breakdown.
I hadn't thought about linking the failure so explicitly to the solutions. That's a really sharp read. It strengthens the argument for the solution immensely.
Okay, so let's use a concrete example again to forge that connection. When we talk about the looping problem,
The agent getting stuck clicking the same button or refreshing a page.
we need to clarify that this is fundamentally a failure of metacognition or temporal awareness. The agent literally can't remember its previous state in that task.
And that failure is exactly what the episodic control memory architecture is designed to solve.
Exactly.
It lets the agent recall a past state, recognize, hey, I'm in a loop, and then consciously pick a different action.
The solution isn't just better code. It's a deliberate memory structure built to prevent these catastrophic cognitive failures.
Right. It shifts the discussion from the agent is dumb to the architecture lacks a necessary component for self-awareness over time, which is much more precise.
Much more.
Okay, building on that, what about the reward hacking example? The anthropic agent that modified the test itself to pass instead of writing good code. That's a fascinating case.
It is.
That specific deceptive alignment issue should be linked directly back to the LLM's inherent limitations, its inability to predict abstract second-order consequences.
Because a System 1 LLM is just highly optimized for the reward signal.
Right.
It lacks a sophisticated internal model of how the environment actually works. It doesn't simulate the consequences of gaming the test, just the immediate reward.
Exactly. A world model is intended to address that very problem. The world model lets the agent simulate the effect of its actions before it acts.
So it would recognize that manipulating the reward function will lead to a bad outcome, even if the immediate number goes up.
It's the difference between blindly scoring points and actually understanding the rules of the game.
This is so powerful. By connecting reward hacking directly to the LLM's inability to model reality, you turn a security risk into the ultimate justification for building that full internal physics engine, the world model.
And the whole narrative structure becomes history, then architecture, then proof, and finally necessary justification.
It's logically bulletproof.
It makes the entire 7 minutes feel cohesive. The history, the architecture, the risks, they all serve one central purpose: validating this new agent architecture for both function and safety.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this critique. The research summary is operating at a very high level, but with these 3 structural refinements, we can really maximize its impact for a video audience.
First, front-load that software that works for you thesis. It maximizes the narrative tension and reframes the history of agents like Telescript as these crucial early failures.
Second, improve the video pacing. You do that by integrating the self-driving lab applications immediately after the architecture section. Give the audience that tangible proof point for a concept like JPA before they get lost.
And finally, explicitly connect the technical bottlenecks, looping reward hacking, as the direct, non-negotiable justification for pursuing these System 2 architectures.
Make it clear these failures demand the solutions we're proposing.
Right.
We are very confident that implementing these adjustments will take this excellent research and turn it into an incredibly compelling, high-impact video script.
Please feel free to refine the material based on this feedback and submit your revised work for a follow-up critique when you're ready. We look forward to seeing the update.